In this video, I'm going to teach you how to rev match, but I think the first thing we want to do is teach you how to drive a manual transmission. If you already know how to do that, jump ahead in the video, but let's start with the basics. The third pedal down here is the clutch pedal, and you can press it in with your left foot. And the clutch pedal is something that engages or disengages the engine from the transmission. So imagine that you have on this side, let's pretend this is the engine side. This is spinning at anywhere from idle, which is going to spin at maybe 700 RPM, all the way up to red line, which might be as high as 7,500. And on this side, you've got the transmission, and let's say the clutch is on this side. So when they're connected, they're spinning at the same speed. But when your foot is on the clutch, you're disconnecting the engine from the transmission, so no power is going to the rear wheels. When your clutch is up, they're connected and they're spinning at the same speed. So when you're starting out with the manual transmission, that's the most important thing to understand. And when you're starting out in first gear, what you want to do is this is spinning and this isn't. You're going to match them by releasing the clutch pedal slowly and giving it some gas, and then they will connect and you will start moving forward. So that's the most important thing. The car is off. Let's start it up. And to start it up, you always, in all modern cars, you need to put your foot on the clutch all the way down, put your foot on the brake, and then on the transmission, make sure that you're in neutral. And that is this part in here in between the top row of gears and the bottom row of gears. This is a little line over here, and it's going to move fairly lightly. It's not going to have a lot of pressure on it. If you're in another gear, it's going to be like this. It's not going to move around too much. If you're down here, it's not going to move around too much. So when you start, clutch in, foot on the brake, make sure it's moving around, give it a little jiggle. I'm going to start it up. And now, just to make sure that I don't lurch forward and hit that wall or hit a pedestrian or something else, I want to make sure, again, I'm going to check this, make sure it's in neutral, and then I'm going to keep my foot on the brake, and then I'm going to let off the clutch. And what's going to happen is, because my foot is on the brake, if I happen to be in gear by accident, the car is just going to stall out. It's not going to go anywhere. So that's really important to do that. And what we're going to be doing is we're going to go through the gears. So let me just stop it again for a second. In this particular car, if I want to get it into reverse, I have to lift up this little collar down here, move it all the way over, and put it up like that. So it's a little bit difficult to get in reverse, which is sort of a typical Japanese thing where the reverse is going to be up next to the 1. In German cars, it's going to be probably all the way down by the 6. To shift, what we're going to be doing is I'm going to put it in first gear. I'm going to let out the clutch slowly, and there's going to be an engagement point, which is about halfway up. And I'm going to kind of hold it there for a second. And then once I feel the car starting to move forward, I'm going to give it a little bit of gas, and I'm going to let my foot off the clutch slowly, and the car is going to move forward. And when you're moving forward, your foot is completely off of the clutch pedal. Put it on the rest over here. Don't let it ride the clutch, because that'll wear out the clutch. The clutch is kind of like brake pad material. If you're riding it and there's a little bit of slip, if your foot is on that clutch, it's slipping, you're going to burn out the clutch. So I'm moving forward. Now to shift to second gear, I need to disconnect the power. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the clutch in. I'm going to let my foot off the gas. I'm going to shift down to second, and then I'm going to bring the clutch up. I'm going to feel the power going to the rear wheels. I'm going to hold it there just in that middle section for just a second, giving it some gas. And then same thing again for third, same deal. I let my foot off the gas at the same time as pressing the clutch in, shift into third. You're going to feel it from going from second to third, because it's going to move over a little bit. See how it kind of popped over a little bit? Then you put it into third. That's the way it works. You have to feel it out. You might catch fifth if you move it over too much, but you can sort of just do an angle like that. Then it's really just going to all boil down to timing. That's really all that it is. Let's go for a drive. And before we get going, you need to know how to abort the mission if you're messing up. So when you stop, you need to put the clutch in. So it's going to be clutch in and brake. And that is because the engine is going to be disconnected. You're not going to stall. If you come to a stop sign, you need to have your foot on the clutch all the way in, because otherwise you will stall. And so there's always a question about when to put the clutch in. you can put it in before you come to a complete stop. You probably will stall it the first few times when you get going. That's totally normal. This is all about feel and practice. So different cars are going to have different areas where the clutch is going to engage. So this car, it's pretty much right in the middle. It's right around there. Some cars will be higher up, some will be lower down. And you want to engage the clutch in a way that you're not going to slip the clutch too much. So you don't want to be revving it like crazy. You don't want to be revving it and going from launch like at 4,000 RPM. You're going to slip the clutch, you're going to burn it out. That's not what you want to do. When you're engaging the clutch, you're going to be sort of in this range right around here, probably in the 1500 range. What to do to start moving is we're going to put it in first gear. Going to put the parking brake in. Notice my foot's in the clutch. And then I'm going to bring my clutch foot up to the engagement point. And I know from practice that it is about halfway up. So I'm going to bring it up to about halfway up. I'm going to sort of hold it there, feel when the car starts to move, and then I'm going to give it a little bit of gas, and I'm going to release the clutch slowly to get moving. So right now, I'm going to take my foot off the brake. I'm going to engage the clutch a little bit and give it a little bit of gas. There we are, about 1500 RPM, and there we go. So now to shift, clutch in, second gear, let it out. It's pretty easy once you get used to it. Now I'm coming up to the stop, so I notice my foot went down on the clutch, foot on the brake. Here we are, ready to start again. Do it one more time. Give it a little bit of gas. I went up to 3 there. Okay, shift, let the clutch out. And as you are going through the gears, you can let the clutch out faster and faster, but you don't just pop it out like that. It's going to give you a real jerky kind of movement. If I'm moving to second, from second to third, if I let the clutch out too fast, it's going to jerk the car a little bit. So if I see that, how it kind of jerked, I let it out too fast. So you always want to go up to that engagement point and then feel the car moving a little bit, give it a slight bit of gas, and keep going. You don't need much gas to kind of keep it going. So let's do it again. We're going up a hill here. Gonna shift. You don't need to shift at very high RPM. It could be as low as 2,000. It depends on your car, really. Clutch in, shift to third, let the clutch out, give it a slight bit of gas. Those are the basics. Now it's time for rev matching. So when we're on a road like this Canyon Road, we're gonna be upshifting and downshifting. And when we're downshifting, let's say we're going from fourth to third, the engine is going to be moving a little bit too slowly. So we got our engine and we got our transmission again. We're going to move the gear lever from fourth to third. When the clutch is in, I'm going to blip the throttle and bring the engine speed up to match the speed of the transmission. How much do you blip it? It's kind of practice. And when you think that you've got the right RPM to match the lower gear, the third gear, you're going to let the clutch out. So it's going to be downshift, blip when the clutch is in, move it into the lower gear, let the clutch out. We're going to try this at a couple different RPMs to show you the difference in doing this. So let me get into fourth gear right now. So I'm at about 3,000 RPM. I'm going to go into third gear, and I'm thinking I'm going to need to be somewhere around 4,000 RPM when I downshift. So I'm going to do this really slow the first time. I'm going to put the clutch in, move to neutral, blip it, put it in gear, let the clutch out. We're going to do it a little bit quicker, but I will record this in slow-mo, and I'll let you know when we're in slow-mo so that you can sort of watch this happen a little bit more slowly and practice yourself. And you can actually watch this video in your car as you're sitting by the side of the road. So let's get into fourth gear right now. I'm going to go at a fairly low RPM. I'm going to blip it into third like so. Didn't need a lot of RPM that time. As I move up in RPMs, I'm going to need a little bit more throttle to match the gear. So let's get into fourth here. And I'm going to blip it up 35. I'm going to get to about 45, I think. And there we go. So what I'm doing is I'm overshooting the RPM slightly, knowing that it's going to take me a moment to get the vehicle into the right gear. So I'm in fourth right now. I'm going to blip it here, I think about 4,500. A little bit less, but that was actually right on the money. I didn't overshoot there. It is all just practice. Now we're coming up to a corner here, and we're going to go into second gear, and I'm going to need more RPM to do that. So let's get into third first. Now into second, a big blip. There we go. Now into second, a big blip. So I'm gonna get a pretty solid blip here. There we go. So the higher you are in the RPM band, the more blip you're gonna need to give it, and at some point you're not gonna be able to get into the lower gear if you're going too quickly. But here I'll be able to get into second no problem. There we go. So that was, I didn't watch that, I was just listening to it. A couple thousand RPM, I think, to get it into second. So now, you guys can go practice that. Let's do some actual heel and towing. So I'll explain that now. Now, heel and tow is the art of combining that rev matching with downshifting and doing it all at the same time. It's particularly useful at a racetrack and also on a winding road like the one that we're on right now. And it's going to require you to learn how to position your feet correctly. So this is going to feel uncomfortable to some people, and I've seen a lot of discussion and comments online about people saying they can't do it because their foot is too big, their foot is too small, whatever the situation. Now, some cars you're not going to be able to do it in just because the pedal placement is so bad. For example, the Toyota Corolla has really awful pedal placement, not the GR Corolla, the regular one, and it's almost impossible to do. But in many, many good sports cars, it is pretty easy to do, like this BRZ/GR86. The Miata has an excellent pedal box. Here's what you're going to do. Here's the basic motion. This technique is going to work with the ball of your foot, so your foot is going to brake. Your foot is going to be on the brake with the ball of your foot, maybe slightly above. It sort of depends on your foot size. What I'm going to do is I'm going to twist my foot and I'm going to roll it over to blip the accelerator with the side of my foot. Now, depending on your car, if you've got a Porsche, and you're lucky enough to have a Porsche, you're going to have the accelerator hinged from the bottom, which makes it really easy to actually get it with your heel. So it's not truly heel and toe in this car, but it is quite easy to do because the placement of the brake pedal is really close to the accelerator. So what I'm doing is, as I'm coming up to a corner, I'm braking, and then I'm doing my rev matching, and I'm doing the rev matching with the side of my foot to push down the accelerator, like so. And in a car like this, there's no way you won't be able to do it. I've seen some people doing these crazy pedal 3D printed pedals, accelerator pedal to make it bigger. No, that's a bad idea. And you won't be able to do this technique if you're going really slow. It is designed to work when you've got to have some pretty good brake pressure so that your foot is, the brake is closer in line with where the actual accelerator is. So you're going to be able to roll it over. If I'm doing light braking, it's going to be really, really hard to do. I need to have a little bit of pressure on this to actually do this. So you will need to be moving a little bit faster. I'm coming out to a corner. I start braking. I'm going to put the clutch in. I'm going to blip the throttle. I'm moving the transmission while the clutch is in. I'm blipping the throttle, moving it into a lower gear, and then you let the clutch out where you're braking, and so you're still continuing to brake, and then you get on the gas for the next corner. And that's the basic move. You're going to be doing it mostly from 4 to 3, I think. You're going to be doing it in a second gear sometimes too, so the same kind of thing. Heel and toe, here we go. This is going to work well on a nice winding road like this. Lots of opportunities to downshift. So we're in third. We're going to brake. We're going to go into second. So here we go. So that was fairly light throttle action on that one, fairly light braking, but just enough to blip the throttle. Okay, so now we're going to brake, get it into second. Gonna brake, get it into second. Okay, one more time. We're going to go from 3 to 2. 3 to 2. So we're going to do on a little downhill section here in a moment, and that might make it more obvious as to what we're doing. You do need a little bit of speed. You do need to have a little bit of brake application. You need to be on the brakes a little bit in order to do this. So let's go from 3, here we go, and we're going to go down into 2. We'll do it one more time here, 3 to 2. Put your questions about those techniques down in the comments and let me know if you want me to do a video on track, heel and towing, show you how to do that at speed. I've got a brand new channel on how to work on your car and tool reviews, stuff like that. Subscribe to that down below. My name is Eric. Thanks for watching.